Hi, my name's Corey, and today we're going to talk about cash flow. Now, we're going to talk about it first, how it relates to businesses in general, and then get more specific on how it relates to making decisions in purchasing commercial assets, specifically apartment buildings, and what that means for investors when a property that they are partners in has cash flow, and what are the potential things that an operator can do with that cash flow. So starting out, if you're talking about cash flow just in general, if you're going to go get a definition, essentially cash flow for any business is just your income minus your expenses, and whatever you have left is generally referred to as your cash flow. Now, the only difference with purchasing real estate is that you have your expenses, but you also have a mortgage seen somewhat differently by the IRS and by the industry in general when you're paying off that mortgage. So your calculation would be all of your rental income. And also it doesn't have to be just your rent. It can also be things like pet fees. It could be late fees. It could be any other fees that you could find, laundry income. Apartment buildings can have many different income generation sources. One generating source that I was just looking into for a property that Legacy Capital is looking to invest in was short-term rental income for nurses, for traveling nurses. As you know, during this COVID time, nurses have been very popular, needing new staff and just doing the great work that they do. And for one property that we're looking at, in order to make the numbers work, it may necessitate that we have additional income coming in. And one of the things that we thought about is having a short-term renter in that space. So that's just an example of another income generating space that we could have for this particular property. So you take all that revenue, all that bundle of revenue that you have for that property, and then you take your expenses. Now, what are the expenses going to be for a property? The highline expenses are going to be your taxes. They're going to be insurance. They're going to be things like turning over a unit, meaning once somebody moves out of a unit, paying to paint it and just get it up to a level so that you can rent it out to the next tenant so that it looks nice and clean and neat and ready to go. Those are some of the high level expenses. You're also going to have administrative expenses. You're going to be paying your property manager if you have a property manager. This next year that we have, we're probably going to be bringing on a new property manager. So we'll be taking on those fees. And so you have that bundle of income, then you have those bundle of expenses. And then if you have a mortgage on the property, you're going to be paying down that mortgage. All that income minus the expenses minus that mortgage equals that cash flow. Now, once you've calculated what your cash flow actually is, and we've kind of identified what cash flow is, let's talk about why it's important. It's important for multifamily real estate and real estate in general for two primary reasons, but there are definitely more reasons. One, on the front end, when you're looking at purchasing a building, it's really important to identify all of the income and all of the expenses, and not only the income and expenses that the current operator has identified, but you want to evaluate the property based on how you're going to operate the property. And this whole process is called your underwriting process. And through that underwriting process, you're going to determine how much it's going to cost you to maintain the property, manage the property. If you're going to do some improvements, what are those things going to cost? And you're going to want to take those in consideration based on how you're going to manage that property. That's the first thing that's important. So it's important to understand that cash flow can help you to determine what properties to purchase. What is good cash flow and what is bad cash flow? That all depends on your business plan and what you plan to do with that property. But generally speaking, individuals who are purchasing apartment buildings or even smaller 2-unit to 5-unit buildings, they're going to look for between $100 and $200 in cash flow per unit. That's the general going amount. And depending on what your business plan is, you may think that, hey, I can't go with $100 a unit because I'm going to need some more leeway because maybe there's some risk involved in this property. But maybe 100 or even less would be okay with you because maybe you see that you're going to be able to re-rent the apartments for a larger rate based on your communication skills, based on some technology that you're going to leverage. Or maybe you are going to hire a property manager that's really aggressive and they're going to be able to increase those rents. Thirdly, maybe you're going to renovate the vacant units in such a way that you're going to get higher rent and therefore your cash flow is going to increase right away. All right, now let's talk about why I love cash flow in commercial real estate. Well, what cash flow does for me is it gives me some peace of mind when I'm investing in a property. If I know that after all the expenses are paid, that I still have a cushion that I can depend on every month, as long as we, of course, take care of our tenants, put in some system in place to make it easy for them to pay rent and make them want to stay in our buildings, it's just gonna make the whole process move more efficiently, and it's going to just make everyone involved, meaning me as the operator, my business partner, and the whole organization, and also our investors are going to feel much better about the property. So definitely you want the most cash flow as possible. But in this market, I'll just touch on just a little bit, it sometimes can be difficult to find. That's why you have to underwrite and look at a lot of properties. I'm looking at many deals every day, typically up to 15 deals a week I'll be underwriting, sometimes even more. Brokers will send me properties. I'll find them online. I'll find them through referrals. And you'll just want to look at as many deals as possible, because some of them on the outset, they might look like they're going to work, but looking at some indicators such as cash flow, if the property doesn't have enough, for me, it'll be a property that I will often not pursue or submit an offer for if I just can't find a reasonable avenue to get cash flow on that deal. Now let's talk about what cash flow means to a prospective investor. Typically, investors in syndications, in deals, they're going to typically receive distributions after about 6 months. 6 months is typically the amount of time it takes to stabilize a property. Stabilization is essentially the time where you can implement your new processes, make sure you're getting consistent rent payments, and start any renovations, maybe even start and end any renovations that you have going on the property. Because it's really important not to take revenue out of the property when you're still trying to get the property on its feet. But once the property's on its feet, the goal of most syndicators, the goal of most investors is to start distributing cash flow to your investors. Now, I'll be completely honest with you. In the market that we're investing in, the Sacramento market, the keys to this market and the benefits of this market are typically not as much in cash flow, but they're in things like, the historical appreciation of real estate in California. And then also, specifically to Sacramento, it's got a lot of inflow migration from the San Francisco Bay Area, and then also from the Los Angeles, Southern California areas. You just learned about real estate cash flow, and I want to thank you for watching this video. But before I go, I just want to let you know that I'm not a CPA, and everything that you learned in this video is for educational purposes only. So feel free to reach out to your own legal or financial professionals before acting on anything that you learned in this video. As always, I want to thank you for watching this video, and I'd really appreciate it if you like the video right now. Share it with someone that you think it might be helpful for. We've got some really amazing things coming out pretty soon. We're going to be purchasing some new buildings, and we want as many people to know about it as possible so that they can jump on board and potentially partner with us in some of these amazing deals that we have in an amazing market. So thanks so much, and see you next time.